Hi, welcome to our next class, and this one is we're going to talk about search engines and search engine optimization. So this follows my most recent class, which was a general overview of the internet. So let me first introduce you to a couple of people who are employees here at Smart Marketing who in some cases have more technical knowledge than I do and that are going to participate in today's discussion. Carolyn Davis, who works here at Smart Marketing, who works with our clients regularly checking their search engine positions on their keywords, and Dave Meehan, who is the head of that department and who is our resident in-house expert on search engines and search engine optimization. So they're going to help fill in the blanks for me today as we try to educate you as a solo attorney on the importance of this. So I'm going to do what I usually do, which is to start with the big picture and then narrow in a little bit. I mentioned in my first class on the internet that I had seen a scientist talk on PBS, I guess it was, about the great revolutions in human communication. The first one, he said, was the invention of language between humans. And the second was the invention of written language, the alphabet. And the third was the invention of the printing press, which made books widely available throughout the world. And the fourth, he said, was the internet. So that's just how big a revolution we're talking about here in our own daily lives. And at the center of that, I think, really is the search engines. The first phase of the internet, I think, was where we all talked about websites and we talked about email and those kinds of uses, and that was great, and they were great. But then these two guys from Stanford came into the picture with a little thing called Google. Not that there weren't search engines before that, because I was using search engines back in, I think, like 1990 or 89. I remember using Alta Vista and some of those other early search engines, and they were very, very useful. My own personal background is I was a newspaper reporter, and I used to, in the olden days, if I was going to research a certain issue and know what had happened about this issue historically or something, I had to go down to the public library and get on a microfiche machine and look at old newspapers and old records and things like that. So when search engines first came about, my ability to just simply go on the internet and go online and type in a case that I was researching and find everything that had sort of ever been written about it, to me that was a miracle. It was just, and for those of you who are young and don't remember what it was like before this, I just can't tell you how incredibly powerful and how incredibly convenient I found that in doing my job as a newspaper reporter. And of course, since then, in the marketing field and in every field of endeavor, I think search engines have changed the way that we conduct our daily lives, and certainly in the way that we use the internet. Some scientists, in fact, have said that search engines are a model for artificial intelligence. They're like the first stage of artificial intelligence. If you think about how we as human beings organize and process information, the way we store it, the way we retrieve it when we need it, our brains do, then you can see that that's a plausible thought, that this is really a primitive version of a human brain in a lot of ways. Now, of course, it lacks the cross-wiring in a human brain that makes things like creativity and things like that. But when it comes to simply the way we handle and process information, it's pretty darn close. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. Now, that all sounds nice in the abstract, of course, but how does it apply to your law practice and so on? Well, it makes it possible. I've always argued that really there's only two basics to business. One, you have a product or service. Two, you let everybody know about it so that they can buy that product or service. And the internet as an engine to let everybody know about it, to have access to it, is simply enormous. If it was not for the internet, for example, Smart Marketing as a business, I think, would be a small advertising agency in Southwest Florida serving local accounts and real estate and retail and restaurants and stuff like that. There's no way we could have the national practice that we have without this miracle of the internet and of search engines. And I can tell you that in terms of where we get our clients, I'd say we get maybe 50% of them from the places that I speak or places that I write, from going to conferences or me writing in professional journals or something like that. And the other 50% come from the internet. People find us on the internet, they fill out our forms, they inquire, they schedule a consultation or so on, and they become our clients. So some of my clients who are, attorneys like yourselves get, 20, 30, 40% of their business directly from the internet. And it's incredibly cost effective, as we've talked about before. But the internet equation is really made up of two pieces. One piece is called clicks, and the other is called conversions. We've discussed this a little bit previously. Clicks means getting people to your website, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Conversions means getting them to do what you want them to do once you get them to the website, and we've talked a little bit about that already. But today we're going to focus on how do you get people to your website. And the main way you get people to your website is by finishing high in search engine results when people can do a search. So what we want to do is talk about how search engines really work on a very basic level. So let me address that, and that is this, that you, in very simple terms, you type into your Google window or MSN or Yahoo or whatever search engine you use, a word or a phrase or whatever that you are looking for. In the case of Smart Marketing, it might be marketing for attorneys. In your case, it might be personal injury lawyer, New York, or divorce lawyer, Birmingham, Alabama, or whatever the term might be. The search engine itself then sends its little search bot spider racing around the internet at about 8 million miles a second, and it then comes back to you with the results of that search. It's looking for a match for those terms that you entered. And it comes back, as you know, and displays a series of answers, of websites and links to match your search term. Now, here comes the key part. And remarkably, scientifically, it returns those events in a fraction of a second. Incredible speed considering what's being accomplished there. Then the key question then becomes, well, how do they decide who's at the top and who's at the bottom? How do they decide what's most important here? And what you need to understand is that a search engine is really, it's a mathematical algorithm. And the people who own Google, for example, are building into that algorithm certain factors that they want the search engine spider to look for, and assign a weight or a value to each of those factors that's going to determine where you rank in your search. And those factors are top secret. Google doesn't say what they are, and they're obscure, they're secret, and they seem to change regularly or be updated regularly. And so a lot of smart people, like Dave here, spend a lot of their time trying to figure out, what does Google want? What does Google reward? And what does Google punish? What makes you go up in the search engine rankings? And what makes you go down? And we think we figured out what the basics are there. And it's always subject to change with Google, but we know, for example, that Google rewards a lot of content, the sheer volume of content that you have on your website. Google likes fresh content on your website because the internet is abandoned, is littered with abandoned websites, with websites that haven't been updated or changed since 2005 or 2003, whatever. You've all visited some attorney's website and clicked on upcoming events, and there's something there from 2006. And that's terrible. I mean, that conveys to any potential client that it's like having cobwebs on your office door. It just says that nothing is going on here. So Google rewards fresh content. And when you think about it on a common sense level, what does Google want the experience to be of the people using its search engine? Well, you want those people to find the latest, best, most up-to-date information. You don't want them to find stuff that's 3 years old, because it could be completely out of date. So Google rewards fresh content. Google rewards what are called backlinks into your site. And backlinks consist of other sites on the internet, other people on the internet, linking into your site, each link being like a vote. So Google is looking at that big picture and saying, well, if a whole bunch of other people on the internet think that your site is important, we think it's important too. And to get even a level deeper than that, they weigh the site ranking of the site that's linking into you. So if AARP, for example, was to link into your website, that would have more value in the search engine results than if your cousin Freddie links into your site from his site. So it's not just how many links, but it's the quality of those links as well. And then there are a number of other factors, maybe even hundreds of other factors that can determine where you are here in your search engine ranking. Things like how long has your website been up? When is your website set to expire? All kinds of small factors like that that go into it that I'll let Dave talk about a little more because a lot of it is technical matters. And, you know, things like the titles for each page of your website, of keywords and how often they appear in the copy of your website. So there's a whole bunch of factors that go into this. We kind of sort of figure out what the most important ones are, what these search engines reward and what they punish, and we try to build websites and manage our clients' online presence accordingly. And then we can get into a little later some questions about best practices, because there are two different kinds of search engine optimization generally described out there: black hat and white hat. And those are simple images from our childhood cowboy movies, and they simply mean that white hat search engine optimization methods are ones that are legitimate. That is, that we're trying to build and maintain websites that earn good rankings from Google through good practices and good content and value to the people doing the searches. Black hat SEO methods are efforts to trick the Google algorithm by knowing what it values and attempting to deceive it. And we can talk a little bit about examples of that. So with that introduction, I want to move on to Dave Meehan, who's the head of our department here, and I'm going to sort of, my format here is I'm going to ask Dave some questions that I think lay people would want to know, and get him to answer them and go on from there. So, Dave, say hello to the class.
Nice to meet you. Hello.
And first of all, anything in the introduction that I just gave that you would quibble with or put more importance to anything?
No, it was perfect.
Okay, perfect. So spoke the employee to his boss. So, all right. In terms of the technical stuff, I think a lot of people, when they first hear about search engine optimization, they hear about it in the context of how the website was built and so on, and things like I get questions all the time like, what are meta tags?
Right.
What does that mean? What's the stuff about keywords? What does that mean? So let me ask you, what are meta tags and what does that mean, and is that important?
A lot of the information that people have is fairly outdated when it comes to searching.
So meta tags were really important 5 years ago, and now
they
they're
were.
not. Right.
They were, that's correct. Meta tags, to a certain degree, are still important because meta tags are a category of technology more than a specific item. So what people mostly mean when they say meta tags is they mean meta keywords, which is where you specify the keywords that you think are relevant to your site on the site itself. Well, a lot of people used to do this, and they used to put things that didn't generally match so well. So Google and the others removed that or greatly limited the amount of benefit that people would get from that. So it's not generally wise to really waste any time doing that. But on the flip side of that, there's something called a meta description, which is a very valuable thing to do. Although it doesn't increase your rankings directly, it can entice people to click on your links once they do come up.
So each, page or something has a meta description?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But correct. You don't see that. You don't read it on the page. It's there in the background.
Correct. Yes.
And if you don't create it, does Google create it for you?
Yes, they'll grab generally the first paragraph of text and use that as your description.
Okay, good. And keywords. Let's talk about keywords for a minute. I mean, if we look at the Smart Marketing site, for example, which is smartmarketingnow.com for any of those of you who want to look, without going too deeply into it, I think, okay, our keywords are attorney, lawyer, law firm, marketing, advertising.
Right.
So how does that affect me as a website owner? What do I want to do?
Well, you certainly want to put those keywords in a prominent location. You want to have
I want it in the
fair
text.
Amount. Yes.
I want it in the copy.
Yeah, you want to have it a fair amount of times in the copy. You don't want to go overboard,
right?
Because that will gain a penalty from Google. They'll look at that.
Good. So that's a black hat thing that we don't want to do. I don't want to have a page here that says lawyer, attorney, marketing. That makes no sense, but it's stuff. What is that called? Keyword stuffing.
Exactly.
Right?
And even to a lesser degree than that, you wouldn't want to have, attorney marketing repeated, 100 times on a page if it was only a few paragraphs.
That really falls into our category of black hat marketing. Right. We're trying to trick the algorithm here by stuffing it with keywords.
Exactly.
Don't want to do that. So
don't want to do that.
So you want to have good copy, but you want to make sure that you're using these keywords in that copy.
You do want to use it where it naturally makes sense to use it. Yes.
Right.
Along with keywords, you also want to make sure that you have a good title for the page. And most people don't know where the title is. It's at the very top of the page, above where the file and edit menus are.
Even above the URL.
Correct.
Right. So very top of the frame.
Yeah, the bar on the top of the page.
Right.
That's the title tag. If you have something that says, ABC Law Firm, that's not a very good title. It doesn't describe what that page is to the search engines, so they don't assign any keywords really to that. So when people ask about, what do I do about my keywords, usually we think that they mean their titles, and we work on that assumption and change those titles to reflect what they're trying to go after.
Right, so if somebody doesn't pay any attention to this, their keyword and their title might be welcome.
Right.
Okay, they don't specify.
Right.
And if they just specify the name of their law firm, that's next to worthless too.
Yes.
So they want that title page to be Personal Injury Attorney New York
exactly.
or something like that.
Yes, something very much like that. You don't want to go too long with it either. You want to have a short, concise title, probably about 70 to 80 characters at the most.
So I'm looking at the title for the homepage of our website, and it says Law Firm Marketing for Attorneys.
Right.
It says what we do.
Short.
Got the keywords in there that we want.
Right.
It's concise. So you want to make sure that you have those titles.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to sacrifice anything, don't have it be the titles, because it's the single most important thing that you can do.
Okay. Are there any other of those kinds of technical things that people, have to be careful of?
Yeah, I mean, there's also link farming where, you get a group of friends together and you all say, oh, let's all link our websites together. That's not a good idea.
Right.
Google will see that, they'll detect that, they'll say that you're trying to manipulate their system, and they'll de-rank everybody.
Right.
So you want to be careful about anything that you're doing for the sole purpose of ranking higher on the search engines. It's not to say that it'll always be bad, but it's a good warning that it might be bad.
Right. Sometimes I think in the past I've seen people doing things that aren't wrong or deceptive or anything like that. It just means they don't know how the search engine works, really. For example, the text within Flash files.
Right. And that gets into a fairly technical discussion about how Google sees different pieces of content. Having text inside of a Flash file, they do read that now, they detect that, but it prevents you from crafting it in such a way that would be optimal for the search engine. And I'll give you an example. You can have headings on pages inside your website, practice areas or about our attorneys, anything like that. It's hard to specify that the same way in Flash as it is in HTML, a normal static site. So the result of that is that you can't designate certain areas as certain types of content. And Google does reward certain aspects of that. So it can be less, but there's ways to get around that. It just becomes much more difficult to do so and much more time intensive.
Yeah, I think that it's important to know those technical things, important to have them in place, important not to run afoul of what Google doesn't want you to do. But in the end, you come back to common sense. As my friend Grant Griffiths, a fellow faculty member here at SPU, likes to say, if you build your website and continue to build it and conduct it so that it is appealing and useful to the ultimate search engine, which is a human being, then you'll probably do well on the search engine rankings, right?
Good
the
advice.
Mechanical ones.
It's very good.
If you build interesting content that people want to read and will come back to and find useful and link to and all of that, then you're going to do well.
Absolutely. Honestly, if you're going to pick two things, it would be build it for humans and put title tags on it, and you'll be most of the way there.
Right.
There's still a few extras, of course.
A few extras.
It gets you
right.
80% of the way.
A lot of people think, at least in my conversations with them, and that may or may not be so, but that the inbound links are hugely important. What do you think?
It depends. It's a tricky question because it depends greatly for some businesses, and for some it doesn't depend nearly as much. And I'll give you a good example. If we're trying to market for probate attorneys in LA, it's going to be much more important to have a good number of inbound links of good quality because there's heavy competition there. That is such a saturated market for probate and for some of the other services there that it becomes every little bit helps at that point. You also would want to see how many links your competitors have at that point to know how many you should really shoot for. But it's not the end-all, be-all. For example, if you're in a smaller town, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you have some and you do a little bit of that, you'll be all right. Even in some of the bigger markets, there's other ways to go about that. Blogging is probably the best way to just naturally attract those links without having to seek them. It's trying to always seek links and getting into the game of trying to get links will cause you more problems.
Which again returns us to really common sense, which is, build the content for a human being, make it valuable, and do it for the reasons that you want to inform or entertain or whatever it is, rather than I'm doing this because I want a link.
Right, exactly.
Right? And if you have a big practice, if you have a national practice the way we do, sometimes there's no way to compete in terms of numbers of links, right? We've got something like 750, 850 inbound links.
No, we've got a lot more now.
Do we?
I think we've got 3,000, 4,000.
Really, 3 or 4,000. See that? We're more popular than I thought we were. But in terms of some of our people who are in some ways competition with us, like FindLaw, which is owned by Thomson Reuters, which is a billion with a B dollar company. They have 750,000 links or something like that. So use your bullets where they're wise. But if you're competing, in a town or a city, you should be able to use that knowledge to your advantage. Carolyn, I'm going to bring Carolyn into this. Carolyn, if you would just review the checklist that we use with our clients when we regularly go through our SEO protocol with their websites.
Okay. Regularly we check to make sure that the site can be crawled by search engine bots. We make sure that the URL is not banned by Google for any reason. We make sure that it has a sitemap, that all the pages are indexed, so just like a routine. As we discussed before, we want to always regularly check the meta tags and the meta descriptions to make sure they're up to date and we're using the most keywords possible for each page.
I have a question. Maybe it's a Dave question. When you say the first thing you said, which was make sure that the site can be crawled, what would stop a site from being able to be crawled?
Well, there can be a few things. I have seen on certain people's sites, and no doubt it was a mistake by whoever was working on it, that they'll create a special file inside the directory where the website resides that the search engines read, and it can literally tell them to not index the website. And they'll follow that instruction, and they'll never index the website. That would be one extreme case of where it could happen.
So in a way, what we're doing here with this list, which Carolyn has not yet finished, is, it's almost like a mechanic going through a checklist on a car.
Right.
Is the oil up to here? Does the steering wheel work? Are the tires, the lug nuts tied on the tires so they don't fall off?
Exactly.
We're doing these very basic things that we're going to do, every month or every couple of months just to keep on top of the website.
Exactly.
All right. Sorry for the interruption, Carolyn. Go ahead.
We check keyword density. We check the header tags.
When you check keyword density for people that don't do this kind of thing, does that mean you sit there on the website and you count the keywords?
No, there's actually tools that you can go out there and put the keyword and basically see the percentage of that keyword.
So if I put in the keyword density for our website the word marketing, they might say, oh, that appears a lot. That appears in 10% of the text on this site or something, or the word attorney or something like that. And that'll give me some idea of how frequently that particular word or phrase appears in this site. Okay, got
exactly.
it. All right.
And then we go ahead and check the top 5 keywords usually, and as well as how they rank in the search engine. We give the page and where on the page they rank.
And where they used to rank.
Exactly.
So we'll look at it and say if your search term was personal injury attorney New York, in August you were on page 22, position number 5 on a Google search. Now, several months later, it's now November, and you're up to page 6, position number 3. We can see that the things that we're doing for that website are making it move up the rankings until we get to where we want to get, which is on the first page of Google and preferably on the first half, the top half of the first page of Google, which is ideal. Go ahead.
Backlinks, as we discussed before, and how those are growing over the months. Make sure that there's a presence on the social media online.
Let's talk about that one.
Okay.
Okay, because we really didn't touch on that at all.
Yeah.
What effect does it have on our website? I'll keep using us as an example so that the attorneys can relate that to their own practices. The fact that I have videos on YouTube, that I have a LinkedIn account, that the firm has a Facebook account, that it appears in all of these different places. What effect does that have in terms of the search engine?
It's a little deceptive at first because most people will think that will immediately increase how their website does online and that will make a huge difference for them. And that might be true. It might. But it won't actually increase any search engine ranking. What it will do is it'll add more more density, I guess, to these results, to where your name will show up more times.
More places you can show up.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook
Sure.
and LinkedIn, so each one of those is a result
Right.
when somebody searches for you.
Right.
So it can add that.
Right. So if you want to do out there a little exercise, for example, this would be Google my name, Mark Merenda, Merenda, and you're going to find like the whole first 2-3 pages of Google are going to be my blog, my website, the articles I publish, the YouTube videos, the Facebook, the Twitter, LinkedIn, all of these things, so that basically my footprint on the internet is a large one. Anybody looking for me or looking for the kinds of things that I do has a much better chance of stumbling across me somewhere there if you pursue this sort of this social media strategy. And there's courses here at SPU that are specifically centered on social media. So I don't want to take this whole class and sidetrack it into there, but it's a great way of boosting your internet presence and, in effect, helping your SEO, even though, as Dave says, it's not going to directly affect the search engine rankings for your site. So that's one of the things, though, that we check with our clients to say, are you doing these things?
To make sure that the site is on the search engine directory, such as DMOZ. To make sure that the site is being analyzed by Google Analytics so that we can get reporting from there. That it's on Google Local Business, it's another site, and to make sure that the domain is not expiring, to make sure that it's not down to less than a year.
Right, because Google punishes that in the
Right.
search engine rankings. Dave, concerning the Google Analytics,
Yes.
tell me a bit about that. What is it? It's a valuable program? Should everybody have it?
Absolutely. It's free, so that's the best thing about it.
Free.
Yeah. It's something that if you go to google.com/analytics, you can sign up for free. You type in the name of your website, the address that is, and it will give you a little piece of code that if you have somebody who works on your website or you do it yourself, you can add that code into the very bottom of the page, and they give you instructions on how to do it. From there, what it does is it collects statistics on people that visit, people, how long they spent on each page, where they came from, what searches they did in Google to find you, those types of things. You can also even configure it even more so to, say, track the keywords that people used who filled out your contact forms.
I'm fascinated each month when I read ours to see,
that is interesting.
where they came from, what site, referring site did
Yep.
they come from, do they type it in direct or they go through a search engine, what browser are they using,
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
What
It's really-
state are they on?
What state are they in?
Yeah.
It really is fascinating and valuable information, and it's free. So that's something that definitely, if you're not doing Google Analytics, if you don't have it on your site, you need to do that. Did we finish your
Yeah.
list?
No, we
Okay,
did.
so a lot of that's very basic stuff in the sense that, like making sure that your site is submitted to these various directories. There's nothing very significant about that. It's not complicated or anything like that. It's just a basic. And having a checklist like this really is very valuable in the sense of if you're going to do it yourself, here's a checklist of things that you should go through that you want to make sure that you have in place. As I say, the same way you would do with your car. I think that one other thing, I want to say two other points really. One is, in terms of black hat SEO, okay, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Okay? That's just common sense. A lot of our clients get emails from people, organizations, companies, whatever. We'll get you in the first page of Google within 30 days guaranteed, or your money back. A lot of times that's true. They can do that by doing some of these black hat practices, by trying to trick the algorithm. They can get you onto that first page. What they don't tell you is that Google will very quickly smell that out, see how you got there, and then administer what's called the Google slap. which means that you're going to be punished. You're going to be banished to page 62, and you're going to be in the doghouse, and it's going to be a long time before you get out. So I'm going to make an analogy here with weight loss, and as you can tell, I'm an expert at that. But here's what I'm going to tell you, that everybody knows what it takes to lose weight. What it takes is consuming fewer calories than you expend or burn. If you do that consistently over time, you will absolutely lose weight. It's guaranteed. And you do that by modifying or creating certain behaviors and doing them consistently over a long period of time. But nobody wants to hear that, right? Everybody wants the magic diet pill. Give me the pill that's going to make me lose 30 pounds in 30 days, and I'm a sucker, I'm ready to give you my money, and so on. SEO is a lot like that. The results will be guaranteed. There's no doubt that you will rise in the search engine rankings if you do the behaviors that we've discussed, creating great content, adding to that content, making sure that it's in the format where search engines can find it, and so on, and creating things that are useful and valuable to other human beings. And if you do that stuff consistently over time, you will definitely rise in those search engine rankings. So don't be looking for a magic pill. There isn't one. Okay, we're very knowledgeable people here in this room. We think about this stuff 24 hours a day. If there was a magic pill, we'd have it, and we'd sell it to you. There isn't one, right? Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So summing up here, I think we can cut this class really is make your site valuable to other human beings, and you're going to do perfectly well in the search engines. If you would like a copy of our checklist as to what to do, please just email me. You can get my contact information here at SBU, and I'll be glad to send you a copy of that. Any other materials that we have, my book on using the internet to market your practice, that white paper is available on our website for download. And I hope you found the class valuable, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. And I'd like to thank my colleagues, Dave Meehan and Carolyn Davis, for joining me today in this class. And I hope you, as a class, got some value added out of listening to somebody other than just me. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.